Good morning everyone, and welcome to this Metaphorix webinars for 2016. My name is Pauline Forder, and today we will be looking at standard credit control functionality within Dynamics NAV 2013 and the creation of reminder letters. We will first of all be looking at the credit limit warnings that we can set up within Dynamics NAV, which is carried out through the sales and receivables setup, and we will look at the options that are available to us. We will then look at those credit limits as far as our customer card is concerned, and then I will run through some examples of the different types of credit warnings that the user will receive dependent on the type of credit problem that there is. We'll then have a quick look at the aged accounts receivable report, and I'll take you through the various filtering options that are available, how we can export to Excel, and how we can show the report in both either a detailed or a summary perspective. We will then move on to the reminder letters, and we will go through the setup of the reminder letters using the reminder terms. Within the reminder terms, we will have a look at the actual letters that we will be sending out to our customers, detailing how we set up the begin and end text, which will show on those reminder letters. We'll then run through the create reminders process itself, and I'll show you how to run it just for a single customer and in the batch job, where it will generate reminders for all of your customers, unless you filter them out, of course. And then we'll look at the process of actually issuing and printing the reminder letters. So, from our screen, first thing that we're going to have a look at is the sales and receivables setup, and we can do that through our departments, financial management, receivables, and sales and receivables setup. Of course, you can just use your search box top right hand side rather than navigating longhand. So the credit warnings is controlled through the credit warnings box on the general fast tab, and you can determine which of the warnings that you want to record. You can do it through to show no warnings at all, just when a balance on the customer is overdue, just when they exceed their credit limits, or indeed both warnings, which is how we have it set up on this our Cronus test database. So once we have determined that from a setup perspective, we will then need to set it up as far as our customer is concerned, and we can do that from the customer card. And I have got myself a little saved view just with the customers that I want to take us through to so that I can actually show you the various credit limit descriptions that will be displayed. So first of all, I'm just going to have a look at this particular customer called New Concepts. And within here, you'll notice that we have the credit limit box on our general fast tab. And it is this that will control whether the customer's limit is exceeded or not. With a setting of 0, as it is now, this means in this case that this particular customer has no credit limit at all, as in it is an open credit. If I were requiring for this customer to perhaps pay by pro forma or something, then what I would need to set this up as is perhaps something as small as just 1 pence. And you'll notice when I type in the value that it has turned to red. And this is just explaining or highlighting to me that this customer has already exceeded their credit limit. Obviously, if they have a valid real credit limit through credit checking services, then you would just type in the relevant value here. And again, you'll notice it's still showing red because, of course, the customer has already exceeded their credit limit. So just to prove the point, if I was to make it to a very large credit limit, then because that credit limit has not been exceeded, then it is now displayed in black. Okay, so we'll have a look at some of the error or credit warnings that are displayed. So if we were to have a look at our customer called Fairway, I'm just going to go and edit, although I don't obviously have to come in. He is already exceeded his credit limit, but if I wasn't on the customer card, I wouldn't actually necessarily know that. So just come back a screen, and I'm just going to pop to a sales invoice. Because I'm on the customer card, it's automatically brought the details through for me. So I'll just pop in a GL line with a quantity and enter that value. And we can now see from our warning that the customer's credit limit has been exceeded. Now at this point, the user has the option to either accept the warning or to say no, and this will be totally determined on your internal processes as to how the user should proceed. But in this window we can see information about the actual balance of the account, the outstanding amounts, current value, and the credit limit here, and then the overdue limits. So I'm just going to remove that and have a look at one of our other customers, Progressive. Again, I'll just go to the sales invoice and pop in my line again. And we can see on Progressive that there is nothing, his open limit is okay. So we don't receive that error message. If we go to Guildford, however, and again just type in my, and on this case we can see that our credit limit again has been extended. Now if I were to change my work date, and of course because this is a Cronus database, we're working with funny dates, but just have to bear with me on that. So if I were now to do an invoice on here, okay, oh, I was hoping I was going to get an overdue amount, but excuse me. But dependent on the status of the customer account will depend on the credit warning that is displayed, and as I say, it is entirely up to yourselves as an organisation to determine how the user should proceed in this area. Okay, so we'll have a look now at the accounts receivable report. So from our customer selection in our main navigation pane, we can go to report and we have our aged accounts receivable report. As with all reports within Dynamics NAV, you always get presented with a dialog box which is basically asking you for some information. In this case, how and at what point do we want to age the report as? So I'm going to do it as at the end of February 2014. I can decide how I want that aging to be done. Is it through the due date on the invoice, the posting date, or the document date? I then decide what the period length for the aging that I want to use. So 1M for 1 month, 2M 2 months, etc. 1 week, 1W, 1 year, 1Y, however I want to view the report. I can then choose to print the details or not by ticking the box, and I'll leave that as unticked at the moment so we see a summary. Sorry, of course I can also tick to show the amounts in LCY only. I can then determine whether I want to have the heading on the top of my report showing the date interval, i.e. the 1st to the 31st, or via number of days, 0 to 30, 31 days, whatever the month is, or whatever the period is that I have selected here. If I was printing details, I could then choose to throw a new page on the actual printout. So perhaps if I have a requirement to hand this particular report over to different credit controllers, for example, I might want to use that. And I can choose to print to Excel. In this case, I'm going to leave those settings as is. But of course, we also have the ability to filter which customers that we want to view, or filter on any other criteria. So if I only wanted a range of customers, I can make my selection here using the normal filtering within the Vision. I might also want to just do it on perhaps on the currency code. So I could, if I wanted to, come into here and go to currency and say only show me those that are relevant to a particular currency code. Again, perhaps because I'm giving it to a particular credit controller to run. I won't though for this example. I will just go into the preview and we have the details at the top as to the rules that I've set for the report. Aged as of 28th February 2014, and I'm aging by the due date. It's the summary view, so I have 1 line per customer. It's showing me the currency code, the balance, and the breakdown of that balance. Any figures that might be displayed in the not due will be those invoices that are due for payment after, or have a due date after the 28th of February. And then it is aged based on my aging band formula, which was in this case 1 month. So I have the current month and then the previous 2 months and then any other balance that is before that date. Have my total down the bottom here in LCY, local currency. However, down the bottom, I then have a summary against each of the currencies that I can then use. So let's just have a look at that report with the other options. So this time I might want to have a look at the print details. Okay, this time I'm going to just change it to posting date because I will get different, potentially different answers dependent on the payment terms. So we'll just have a little look at that. So because I have selected the details, I'm looking at all of the documents, both invoices and credit memos that have been posted and that remain open on the customer account. And in this case, I it hasn't really changed the column values just because of it being a test database. Okay, so last but not least, we will just have a look at what the report looks like when we run it out to Excel. I can either print or preview. Excel will be launched in either ways. If ever you get this type of message, please always tick or select the Allow button. Okay, so you'll notice here that it is actually in the detailed view. That is always the case when you, irrespective of whether you've ticked the box for show details or not from the aged accounts receivables when you go out to Excel. So of course this means that I can actually share this information with users perhaps that don't have access to Navision. On the Information Fast tab, it brings the information for them so that they know exactly the rules under which this report was run. Obviously the dates there is a little bit strange because that is the actual system date of my computer rather than the work date which is being used within the Cronus database. Okay, so I'll just close that down and my report down as well. And now we will have a look at the reminders setup. Again, we can access that through our departments. Financial management, receivables, and right down the bottom you have reminders. Okay, but what I want to do first is get reminder terms, and I've just totally forgotten where to find them, so I'm going to use my search box, which is wonderful. Oh, it's receivable setup. There we go. So reminder terms. Now the reminder terms really relate to the different types of customers that you might have, and therefore the different types of reminder letters that you might need to set up. So an obvious distinction is between domestic and foreign or EU or rest of the world type customers, because the terms under which you send the reminder letters out might be different. So in our Cronus database we have domestic and foreign. So you give it a code and you give the reminder terms a description. You can specify the maximum number of reminders that you want to send out. Now, it might be that you have decided that you're going to create 3 standard letters that go out. One saying, for example, sure, it's gone past your attention, but you have some outstanding invoices. Letter 2 might be a little bit more stronger, and letter 3 stronger even still, sending it through to the legal department or something like that. What this part is controlling is that once you have sent those 1, 2 or 3 letters, how many times do you want to then send the final letter? So if we have set up 3 reminder letters, I might say here that I actually want to send 5. So what that would mean, it would send letters 1, 2 and 3, and then it would send letter 3 on 2 more occasions, making up the total of 5 reminders. Realistically, as we all know, basically if a customer hasn't responded within 3, then they're probably not going to until you pass it through to your legal department. So you could choose to just keep that to the number of letters that you have set up. We can also set up interest fees, and we can actually post those interest fees through to the customer account. Again, historically, customers, if they receive a reminder letter saying we were going to charge you a fee of 2% for the fact that you haven't paid. You might get the actual value of the balance back, but they probably won't won't pay the interest fee. So what we normally recommend is that you just put the fee on the reminder letter, but you don't use the post option. You can also decide a minimum value for a reminder letter, so you're not going to bother sending out a reminder letter if the debt is less than £500 or something. Okay, so once you've decided on your reminder terms, you then have to determine what the levels are, or what the letters themselves are going to look like. So from the Actions menu, we go to Levels. Just extend that for us so we can see a bit more clearly. So in this case, on our Cronus database, we have set up 3 letters. Within each letter, we can decide either we can use a grace period and or a due date calculation to work out when, in this case of the first letter, after the due date has passed on the invoice, when we would send out the first reminder letter. You have here this calculate interest option. Again, probably wouldn't use it, but you might want to, as we've done here, actually specify that you will be making a further charge for having to handle the debt. So each of the letters can work to different grace and due date periods. So it's up to you what the rules are going to be for your particular reminder letters. And then against each of those letters, we then set up the text as we want it to appear on the reminder letter itself. So here's some examples for you. In this case, I've just said, dear customer, as of, and then I've put in what's called a variable, %1, the below invoices are now due for payment. So there is a possibility within the vision to add these variables, which just means irrespective of the customer and the details of the debt, you can bring in these variables. And to explain what the variables are about, I'm just going to pop to my Word document here. And you can see the %1 that I'm using there is saying the document date. So whatever date is on my reminder header on the General Fast tab, then that will be replicated within the body of the reminder letter itself. You can do %2 for due date, etc., interest values, remaining amounts, etc. And you can access these all through the Help button. When you're in your reminder letter text, just press the F1 key and you will have a screen that comes up with a link to show you which variables you can use. So back to my variables. Let's just get that out of the way. So as of date of the reminder letter, the below invoices are now due for payment. And the ending text to that particular letter is saying, please remit your payment of, so %7 being the outstanding amount, within 5 days from receipt of this letter. And you can make your text boxes as many lines deep as you wish, and both from a beginning and end text point of view. Might be useful to add also your email address so that they can email back to you. They have no excuse for not being in contact with you. On our letter 2, our beginning text, despite our early reminder, your account still remains at, and the amount outstanding, with the ending text. If the balance is not received within 10 days, your account will be sent to our legal team. With our third reminder saying, this is the and the number of reminders that you have sent, in this case %8, we have now sent your account details to our legal team, or whatever it is that you want to say. And with an ending text, I've just said, please send all informations now through to our legal team. So levels will need to be set up on each of the different reminder terms that you are using. So once that has been completed, we then need to make sure from a customer perspective that our customer is set up with those reminder terms, otherwise reminders won't be sent to them. So if we look at our customers, anyone will do. Okay, on the Payments Fast tab, under the Reminder Terms code, you will notice there we have our domestic and our foreign reminder terms. So each customer that you want to send out reminders to must have the Reminder Terms code populated in their customer card. So, to the reminders themselves. Here in our role centre we have a link to reminders. If it's not part of your role centre, then again the quickest way is going to be popping reminders in your search box. We have two ways. We have a batch job to create our reminders, or we can create a reminder specifically just for one customer. So I'll show you that process first. You can just click on New, select our customer, so I will put in John Haddock. Okay, and then from here I can say suggest reminders. I'll just make that full screen. So just suggest reminder lines, and you have some options. Only entries with overdue amounts, and you can choose to include or exclude any entries that have the on hold marker against them. So if I say yes to that, then we can see that it has indeed populated our reminder for us. I'm just going to delete that, however, because I want to show you that through the batch job. And to do that, it is using the Create Reminders icon at the top of your page. This time, slightly different screens or options. You have the posting date, so this is the date that you want to appear on your reminder letter. Again though, we have the only include entries for overdue amounts, rather than just showing them everything that is due. And you can decide whether you're going to use the header level from the customer in terms of whether they've already had reminders generated or not. You can select only certain customers using standard Navision filtering. Select those customers that you do want to include, or perhaps exclude a customer by our usual exclude option, for example. But I'm going to, in this case, do my reminders for all of our customers. So, OK to that. And now we have our list of the reminders that have been automatically generated for us. Now, these reminders are purely working documents. If we don't want to send them out to our customer, we don't have to. So first of all, we'll just take a look at what is actually in the reminder itself. So I'll just pop to the edit screen. And here, for Progressive, we just have a very flat reminder layout, and we can tell from this that this is a reminder terms code which was foreign because we haven't got the text that we looked at before. However, we're seeing that it's a reminder number 1 for this particular customer. And again, it shows you in the right hand side of our lines the details of how many reminders have been sent. So I'm just going to scroll through our reminders until here's one of our domestic reminders. So as our beginning text, dear customer, as of, and then the date. The below invoices are now due for payment, just as we saw in our text. There's that additional fee that has been added to the reminder. However, because we haven't ticked the post-interest boxes on either the levels or the terms code, then an actual invoice will not be generated, in this case for the £5. And then we've got our ending text giving our total, our %7 at the bottom. So if we just go through to John Haddock, which was the one we did from running it on a single mode, we have indeed the details, but you'll notice that the heading is different, and we are now looking at details of some entries that were in the first reminder that has been sent this customer. So this is now reminder number 2, and now, because it's now reminder number 2, some other entries have now become due for payment, and again that is shown in the lines of the document. So to have a look at what it looks like from a printed point of view, I'm just going to go to the test report. Of course, this would all be laid out properly with your logo, etc. on the printed document. So we have a mixture of ones that we would want to, or could want to, send out to our customers. So I've just closed that screen down now and back on our reminders list. As I say, these are purely working documents, so if you have the need to go and change them for any reason, then indeed you can, and you can add additional text lines or even additional lines for charging on them if you wish. But they are working documents. They are not, in Navision's terms, issued to the customer yet. And to do that, you go to the issue button at the top. Well, I'm just going to issue one for John Haddock. And you'll notice I've got some options. I can say whether I want to print it or not. I won't, because obviously I can't show you the printed document. But you might, depending on when you have run your reminder letters, you might want to change the date that is on the documents, and you can do that by just ticking the replace document posting date and popping in a new date there. In the Reminder Files tab, you'll notice that it is being filtered on just that one for John Haddock. If I were to do it for all of the customers, then I would simply just remove that filter. So I'm just going to do that for him at the moment. And you'll notice John has now been moved from my list. So if we go and have a look at John, change that to name. Okay, and I can either open it up or I can go to the navigate button. She says, looking for, there it is, our issue document. So this is the document that has been issued and would have been sent through to the customer. So issued reminders, and I can see that there are actually 2 reminders here. So if we look at reminder number 1, this indeed was the first reminder that was sent with the reminder level of 1, whereas our second one is now showing the details that it's reminder level 2 and the breakdown as we saw when we did our test report. Just going to see if I can get a nice logo to show you. No, unfortunately it's not, but this would be set up obviously with your nice logo at the top, and of course detailing your bank details, so again they have really no excuse not to send the money through to you. Okay, so back to reminders. I can now choose at this point any reminders that I do or don't want to send through. So perhaps if I don't want to send those particular reminders at this point in time, I can just highlight and delete them. And then I can just choose to issue all of my reminders by just simply removing the filter again, obviously still choosing whether I want to change the posting date or not. And now those reminders have all been generated and I can access them against my customer card. And the process will then just be repeated against the next date, and each time you run it, and of course you should be running reminder letters quite frequently, because of course each customer has a different payment terms set up against them, and a reminder letter today might not include a customer, whereas tomorrow it might include that customer. So we have now finished our webinar for standard credit control and creation of reminder letters. We have seen how we can set up the credit warnings on the sales and receivables setup and select which warnings we want to see. We've seen how we can add the credit limit to the customer card, and when we add that credit limit, it will turn to red if the credit limit has already been exceeded. But of course, going forward from a customer card, you will be able to see quite quickly those that are over the credit limits. We've run through the various examples of credit warnings that you will come up against, and we've then looked at the accounts receivable report and looked at the various filtering options that we have, how we can export to Excel, and how we can show that report in either a detailed or a summary view. And then for reminder letters, we've gone through the reminder terms themselves, how many we need to set up dependent on the different types of customers we have, the reminder letters themselves with their begin and end texts, and then we've run the reminders from the view of doing it a single customer and a batch job, and lastly how we issue and print the reminders. I do hope that you have enjoyed today's session.